What's the real difference between a good hotel deal and a truly great one? It's not just about a charming salesperson or a beautiful lobby. In the world of hotel sales, where the stakes are super high, the most powerful tool you have isn't a smile, it's data. Today, we're going to dive into how strategic negotiation, powered by real market intelligence, is an absolute game changer.
Hello, and welcome. As a hotel AI expert, I've seen firsthand how technology and data are reshaping our industry. It's a real pleasure to welcome all the students from Europe Hotel School to this online learning journey. This program is all about giving you practical, real-world knowledge that you can actually use, all supported by the latest in AI-driven hotel practices.
For the longest time, people thought hotel negotiation was just an art form, a game of charisma and gut feelings. But let me tell you, in today's market, relying on a gut feeling is a massive risk. The absolute best in the business, they've swapped that instinct for intelligence. They've turned negotiation from an art into a science. Let's break down exactly how they do it.
Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're going to tackle this in 5 key parts. First, we'll look at the huge risks of negotiating blind. Then, we'll get clear on what market intelligence actually is. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of analyzing demand and, keeping an eye on the competition. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to give you a massive data-driven advantage.
So let's jump right into the core problem, what we're calling the negotiation dilemma. In this business, walking into a negotiation uninformed isn't just a risk, it's practically a guarantee for failure.
So why is just going with your intuition so incredibly dangerous? Well, think about it. Even the most persuasive, most charming salesperson on your team is flying blind without the facts. A gut feeling can lead to some pretty serious disasters. So what does that disaster actually look like in the real world?
Well, it looks a lot like this. When you negotiate without data, your pricing is all over the place, which just confuses clients and makes your brand look weak. You start giving things away, unnecessary concessions, because you don't actually know how strong your position is. This directly leads to leaving money on the table, and it can even break a client's trust when they figure out your decisions are totally random. It just keeps you on your back foot, always reacting instead of leading.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the fix? It's all about building an analytical backbone for your entire sales strategy. And that backbone is market intelligence. Now, don't think of market intelligence as some dusty, one-time report that sits on a shelf. Think of it more like a constant 360-degree radar. It's the ongoing process of gathering and, more importantly, understanding what's happening in your market so that every single decision you make is a smart one.
So, what are we really looking at here? It's the whole picture. We're talking about the local tourism scene, how different customer segments are behaving, and what the wider economy is doing. It's knowing which airlines are flying into your city, what your direct competitors are up to right now, and spotting those new travel trends before everyone else does. All right, let's make this real. It's time to put market intelligence into practice by analyzing market demand. This is where we learn how to read the business environment like a true professional. Okay, this is so fundamental. Your hotel is operating in a market that's always changing. Demand is almost never flat. You've got your clear peak seasons and your off-peak seasons. Knowing these cycles is everything. A request for 100 rooms during a huge citywide convention is a totally different beast than that same request in a quiet month. Understanding this context is what lets you see the true value of any potential deal.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because we're looking at who is driving that demand. Every hotel has different customer segments, right? Corporate, leisure, big groups, and they do not contribute equally to your bottom line. If you know, for example, that your corporate clients bring in steady revenue all year long, you might be a bit more flexible with them. But a huge one-time group in the middle of your peak season, you might need to be much firmer on that pricing.
Understanding the external market is huge, but it's only half the picture. The other, equally important half comes from looking inward at your own data and outward at what your direct competitors are doing.
And here is the absolute key. Sales cannot do this alone. This has to be a team sport. In the best hotels, there's a seamless workflow. The revenue management team analyzes all the data and sets the strategy. Then, the sales team uses those data-driven boundaries to guide their negotiations. And the result? You get salespeople who don't just throw out a price, they can explain the logic behind it with total confidence.
Sooner or later, every salesperson hears it, but the hotel down the street is cheaper. Without a strategy, your negotiator gets defensive, they panic, and they drop the price. That's a flawed comparison. The smart negotiator knows that price is just one tiny piece of a much, much bigger picture.
And this table shows exactly what that holistic, effective comparison looks like. Okay, so their price is lower, but is their location as good as yours? Can you walk everywhere from their hotel? Do they have the same modern AV technology for meetings? Is their brand premium? Is their service award-winning? When you can talk about your value across all these points, that simple price complaint from a client just loses all its power. You're not defending a price anymore. You're explaining your value.
So let's bring this all home. When you combine that external market analysis with all your internal and competitive insights, you create this incredibly powerful, data-driven advantage that just completely changes the negotiation game.
And this right here is the payoff. You stop being defensive about price, and you start informing your clients. That transparency builds an incredible amount of trust. Your team feels empowered to stand firm on your hotel's value, which creates a real, sustainable competitive advantage. And maybe best of all, every single negotiation makes you smarter for the next one. It's a powerful feedback loop.
It really all comes down to this single idea. Market intelligence takes negotiation from being this chaotic, reactive scramble and turns it into a disciplined, strategic practice. You're no longer just responding to things, you're leading the conversation, guided by data, not by drama.
And what is the ultimate goal here? It's about getting everyone on the same page. It's about building one unified strategy that aligns your entire commercial team, from revenue to sales, so you're all speaking to the market with one clear, strong, confident voice.
So I'll leave you with a question to think about. Whether you're in hotels or any other business, is your negotiation strategy built on assumption or is it built on analysis? Because honestly, the answer to that question will define your success.